Okay, here we go, part 6. Shoo, man. I'm sweating like a hooker on nickel night, man. This outside is 96 degrees here. I was in the garage. I had to put some water locks on one of my cutting boards and feed the horses and put them back up and check on Moki. So, all right, I took a break. I'm back. Here we go.
In the Facebook group posts where they're discussing about the break-ins and the burglaries, did you find anything within the Facebook group itself that they were making explicit racial comments about these things, or whether they were simply discussing what was happening? Did you find anything in those posts?
I don't recall seeing anything explicitly racial in the Satilla Shores Facebook posts.
They were seeking simply to figure out what was going on in the neighborhood.
Well, and it's not just break-ins. They've posted a lot of stuff on there happens in the neighborhood. I mean, somebody's got stuff for sale or something like that. It's not solely focused on criminal activity or break-ins.
When you spoke with, or when you reviewed Travis's statement or his father's statement, and I apologize if you've said this already, did they tell police that when they saw Mr. Arbery running past their house, that they in fact believed he was the person that had been in the neighborhood in the homes late at night previously?
Greg McMichael said that during his statement, that he recognized him and that he went, as far as that person, he did not know him before that incident, according to Greg McMichael. When they asked Travis McMichael, when he said when he called up to Mr. Arbery in the truck, he's almost 100% sure, I think was his statement, that that was the individual that he had seen on video and from the February 11th incident.
Did you learn about Travis's kind of mental state on February 11th when he responded and called the police, whether or not he was frightened or scared?
Did the objector call for speculation about what a defendant is feeling?
That's not speculation. Did you call him and ask him about being fearful? No, I did not. How's that speculative? Now, if he asked, do you think he was fearful? Now maybe we're there.
It's not.
I didn't ask him to speculate, Your Honor. I asked him if he said whether or not he was frightened or scared at that time.
You may answer.
I don't recall any statement he made about that.
Have you listened to the 911 call from February 11th?
I believe so, but I don't recall that statement in it.
You don't remember whether or not Travis sounded frightened or whether he said he was scared or reported that he was scared on that night?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember.
That's pretty key. If he said that on a 911 call, that again goes to the reasonableness of his fear. He was fear before this, and now this made him even more fearful, which is why he might have armed himself. So, I mean, I don't think you need a reason to arm yourself. If you're going to make a citizen's arrest, you probably ought to have a gun. And if you're going to chase somebody that you think's a felon or a burglar, you better have a gun. Because if you try to do it without it, you may end up getting stabbed. Rick, you can't say that. It's just, go ahead. Here we go.
Don't remember.
And I'm aware of the time. I wasn't sure if you were going to be breaking, but I'm going to move into using the map. I'm going to come up there, but I didn't know if you were going to take a break or not.
Much more time do you think for this witness?
It's probably another hour, if you'll allow.
You know, to the extent you care, I usually take my lunch at 12. I think you're at 1 o'clock lunch person, but...
So that's another problem when you have multiple sets of attorneys. You have to appease them all. So if one person objects, these two can join in or they cannot join in. But if when the defense is talking, he's got to make sure that not one of these guys, or when the prosecution, the DA, he's got to make sure none of these guys object, because any one of them can object, and they can lock him down. So he's being watched by 3 different sets of eyes that can actually object, whereas normally DAs are used to getting one public defender who doesn't really care, who's got a government job, and he's just going through the motion.
If we're going to go another hour, I would really prefer to have a break.
Well, that time at 12 o'clock first.
Oh, I was wrong.
Well, what would you all like to do? Would you all like to continue now for another until 1 o'clock?
I'm happy to do it.
All
Whatever
right,
the court wants to do it.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Jesus Christ, dude. You can't tell us, boy.
I don't think this gets us tall. Bob?
All right, let me bump ahead while these freaking attorneys try to figure out how to put up a map. Oh, that's it. I'll just hold it.
Is that oriented the right way, the way we had before? Down? More? I think your testimony is that there is a video that picks up Mr. Arbery as he comes into or onto Satilla Drive. Is that correct?
There is a video of him from across the street from the house under construction, which is approximately here, that sees him come into frame traveling in this
Whose
direction.
video camera is that?
I can't recall his name. It's his house across the street.
And you've now got a copy of that entire video, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And on the video, what does it show Mr. Arbery is doing as he approaches the house? Is he walking or is he running?
I don't recall.
How's that?
I don't remember if he was walking or running. I remember him coming into frame, but I don't remember if he was in a jog or running or walking.
Well, you testified that you believe he was on a jog. You're saying you don't remember whether he was on a jog?
No, sir. You asked me when he comes into frame, what is he doing?
And how much space do you have as he comes into frame? About how many feet of frame does he, or how many feet of road do you think that he uses as he comes up to the house?
I couldn't estimate that, sir.
Don't know.
Couldn't estimate it, no, sir.
Have you sought to measure any of these distances as part of your investigation at this point?
There has been a scan done involving a three-dimensional Leica scanner done, which includes measurements all around.
I'm sorry, what kind of scanner?
A Leica scanner, which does three-dimensional measurements using lasers of that area. There has also been a drone flight through to help show distances.
Great. And then I think you said that he enters into 220 Satilla at that time.
Yes, sir, he does.
And that's where we pick up the video showing him walking into the house. Is that correct?
He enters the house, yes, right? Because I don't know if he comes into frame running or jogging, but he goes into the house. That's correct.
Okay. I think you testified there was an individual that called the police and came outside.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Albenzi, does that sound right?
Yeah, Albenzi, something like that, yes, sir.
Any information about whether or not Mr. Albenzi shouted across the street to Mr. Arbery or said anything to Mr. Arbery?
No, sir. My understanding is he did not.
He did not say anything.
That's my understanding, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And he calls the police, and at some point I think you testified that Mr. Arbery then runs out of the house.
Yes, sir. He comes out the door and runs, which is what he has been seen to do on previous video.
Coming out of that house and running.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And he runs out of the house down, does he just run down the driveway and into the road, or does he cut across the yard? Do you notice?
I don't recall that. I don't recall.
And he begins to make his way down in front of 230 Satilla Drive, which is Greg McMichael's home. Is that what you testified to?
Yes, that's correct.
What is it that you understand Greg McMichael sees, observes, and says at that moment when he's out in his driveway?
My understanding, he sees Mr. Arbery running past. According to Greg McMichael's statement, again, he doesn't know if Mr. Arbery's chasing somebody or somebody's chasing him, but he recognized him as the person that's been in the house previously, and says that he suspects that Mr. Arbery may have been involved in thefts in the past.
Okay.
So he goes into the house and tells Travis that's him, and then they get the guns and proceed to get in the truck and chase Mr. Arbery.
I think you testified that Greg McMichael's former law enforcement officer and investigator from the DA's office.
Okay, let me get something here that a lot of people aren't covering, and the defense ought to point this out. How many people can tell the difference between a person jogging and a person running fearful? Because there's a difference. And I may not be able to explain it to where you can visualize it, but I bet you I can show two pictures of a dude running who's being chased, who's fearful, or I can show you 100 videos of people running from the police, and you see the way they run, and then you see pictures of somebody jogging for exercise. Who thinks you could tell the difference? I'm pretty sure most people could. And when these guys said they saw him and it looked suspicious and he looked like the guy, to me, that's a pertinent fact that, hey, was he look like he was jogging, or does it look like he was fleeing an area or possibly fleeing from the police or a crime scene, or he knew he was seen? Well, that's speculation. I can't tell what he was thinking. Okay, I'm not asking you what he's thinking. I'm telling you, here's a picture of a guy running from the police. See how he's running? Here's a picture of a jogger jogging. Can you tell the difference? Which one did he look like? He looked like he was running like the guy running from the police. Okay, great. To me, that's important. State of mind. A lot of people, especially untrained cops, even cops, can't articulate and paint a picture for juries and other people to imagine what they saw, smelled, felt in an incident. And that's why sometimes the officer, what he really felt, isn't conveyed because he doesn't know how to put it into words.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And he is expressing to the police these statements back on February 23rd that it's his belief at the moment Mr. Arbery runs past that he thinks that is the individual that's been burglarizing and committing thefts in the neighborhood.
No, that is not correct.
I thought that's what you just said.
No, sir.
Okay.
He says that's the individual that he has seen in the house.
Okay.
He believes, he has a gut instinct that this person may have been responsible, although he's got, and I think he actually says, I've got no proof of that, but this person may have been responsible for various crimes in the neighborhood.
Okay. And
Okay, so the fact of the matter is he targeted this person because he matched the suspect description. There was crime in the area, and he thought it was the same guy that was connected to the possible crimes. Remember, in legal terms, cops can shoot you even if a felony has not been committed. All they have to do is believe a felony has been committed. So when you make a citizen's arrest, if you're arresting for a felony does not need to have occurred. A misdemeanor, it has to be in your presence. You have to see it. It has to have been occurred in front of you. You have to have firsthand knowledge, except for a few exceptions for cops, DUI and domestic violence, things like that. But if a felony, if you're thinking it's a felony, that's why these guys hopefully said they were after him for a burglary and not just for trespassing. If they said we chased him for trespassing and then he got killed, their defense for chasing a fleeing felon and using force to stop that felon falls apart because they didn't have proof that a felony or they didn't have that felony protection that, hey, whether or not, most penal codes say whether or not a felony has or is suspected, the same rules apply as if it had.
And did you get an understanding of where he came to that feeling or belief from?
Just his explanation of Glenn County Police Department, like I said, I think he actually says it's a hunch. They go into it's just like a subjective just reasoning. He says, my reasoning is there's thefts going on and somebody's in a house under construction. So they're probably or possibly the person that may have been doing these thefts.
Would you consider
That, to me, that's a reasonable conclusion. Okay? You've got a house where there's been thefts and you see a guy running from there. I don't care what color he is. Even just that fact, it's reasonable. But then when you add, you had the same guy wearing the same clothes in the same area multiple times on video in the house, it even makes it more reasonable.
it's significant if Larry English had in fact told him that he had thousands of dollars worth of fishing equipment and electronics stolen from his boat around the time of October and November of 2019?
I would find it astonishing considering that Mr. McMichael tells them that he did not think anything was stolen from the house on February 23rd, 2020 during the interview with the Glenn County Police Department. So I would think that would be a change. If he came out and said that now, I believe that would be a change in the statement he gave on the day of the murder.
Okay. Would you, okay, all right, move on. So then after he runs past, you said that Mr.
Okay, how many people, raise your hands, if you think statements and facts become clearer after an incident? It's true. Cops even are told that. That's why they interview again. That's why when I interview a rape or some sort of traumatic incident, a gang shooting or knifing or home invasion where the people are traumatized, I give it time. And if I get an initial statement at when the crime occurred, I will go back later and go over their statement. A lot of people don't want you getting multiple statements. I normally don't get multiple statements because people always change your ad, and then the defense can chew that up and say, why didn't you say it on the first time? Why did you add it here? Well, you know what? Sometimes facts become clearer after time, because when you go on a fight or flight, I've talked about this a bunch of times, you go to my website, I got a whole page on it, auditory exclusion, tunnel vision, blood loss to the fingers, loss of dexterity. I mean, there's thousands of things that happen when you go in fight or flight. And one of the things is memory. You're not worried about storing things long term. You're worrying about surviving. So a lot of times facts are missed or not remembered until later. How many times you heard somebody in a traffic accident? I don't know what happened. All I remember is waking up in a hospital. 2 weeks later, they start remembering what happened in a car accident. Same scenario.
Mr. McMichael goes in the house and gets Travis.
Yes, sir. Correct.
And what do you understand happens next?
Mr. McMichael grabs his Greg McMichael grabs his .357 Magnum revolver. Travis McMichael grabs a 12-gauge 870 shotgun. They then get into Travis McMichael's truck, Travis Michael driving, Greg McMichael in the passenger.
Notice how the officer is kind of leaning back in his chair now, and he's looking. We're kind of seeing a more normal view than his straight up. He probably would not lean back like this if a jury was in there, because he almost looks like, yeah, let me just tell this story here to you pesky attorneys.
Passenger seat.
Let me stop you there if you don't mind. Did they explain or give any information as to why they grabbed their firearms?
I know somebody's going to come here and say, Rick, you're just picking on it. Maybe he's leaning back because the poster's in his face. Well, he could be creating some distance, but he could roll his chair back. That doesn't mean that he has to sit that way. But, again, my opinion, people. Don't like it. Don't click play. Don't comment. Don't come back. Jesus, I don't have the comments to argue with you idiots. I just block some idiot. He come here, oh man, you blocked me. You're a Trumpster. You don't want to argue. And I'm like, what the hell is he? I have no freaking clue what he's talking about, but he's blocked now. The quickest way to get blocked from me from commenting is to come here and cry that I blocked you. First of all, if I block you, I can't see that you're crying that I blocked you. So if you want to come here and say I blocked you, that's the quickest way to get blocked.
Yeah, I believe Greg McMichael explains that, again, this is an individual that had been in the house over here and they didn't know if he was armed or not. So they grabbed weapons.
Did they at all reference the February 11th evening where they thought that he may be armed because he had been motioning to his pocket or reaching in his pocket?
Yes, sir, I believe that was brought up during those interviews, yes.
Oh, you fell in and out because that paints a pretty good picture. They had prior contact with him where he reached for his waistband and they thought he was armed. This time they armed themselves because they thought they were armed and they were going to detain him and call the police. But you didn't say it like that. You kind of made it an afterthought. Second of all, these defense attorneys need to start asking these cops what they would do, and is it reasonable what this cop, this retired, even though he's a retired cop, he still has the training and experience of these guys. His actions and acts are going to be the same as working cops. He needs to start asking these cops. Let me ask you something, officer. You're a trained police officer. You have a lot of training in use of force in dangerous situations. Let me ask you, if you're contacting someone that you suspect as a burglar, not necessarily this case, but another case, and he reaches for his pockets or to his waistband, would you put your hand on your gun or pull your gun or think it's reasonable to think that he may be armed and I need to defend myself and I should be armed too? And if he says, well, no, it depends on the case. Well, let me ask you this. Would you feel comfortable not bringing your gun on duty when you're responding? If your only job is to respond to burglary calls, would you feel comfortable leaving your gun at the station? Of course not. I need my freaking gun. Why? Because I don't want to get shot. I'm dealing with possible criminals. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing until they produce a gun. Of course I want to be armed. That makes his client's actions seem reasonable.
That they were afraid that the same guy may have been armed.
Well, yeah, they mentioned that, but Rick Michael also says that his gut instinct, again, was this person may have been the...
You notice he keeps saying gut instinct. The Supreme Court has ruled, and I bet you this case will come up during his trial, that cops can't use gut instincts. Gut instincts is a feeling. It's a, it's hinky. Something's not right. The hair on the back of your neck stands up. Because the Supreme Court said you can't call it a gut instinct. What do you have to call it? You have to give articulable facts. Articulable facts is, when you look back at it, why was your hair standing up? Why were you uneasy? This is very easy. He's going for this gut instinct, and the defense attorney keeps letting him get away with it. They ought to do some research on what cops are taught and what the Supreme Court ruled on gut instincts. If an officer has articulable facts, it's not a gut instinct. His gut instinct is just the wrong way to say it. If a cop gets on a stand and says, I had a gut instinct, the attorney, the DA, will say, well, when you said the term gut instinct, isn't it true that what you really meant is it was at night and you couldn't see very clearly, so that made you uneasy? Yes, that's true. Isn't it true that you were dealing with a felony call and that on felonies, sometimes people are armed, so that made you feel uneasy? Yes, that's true. Isn't it true that you were in a high crime area with a lot of crime or previous crime, and that made you feel uneasy? Yes. So actually, when you said gut instinct, there were actual facts on why you felt the way you felt, correct? Correct. So that's what these defense attorneys need to do, these cops, when they're trying to throw out, because this is a absolute arrogant kind of, I'm going to slip in gut instinct, and if they try to challenge it later, the DA is going to pull out the case law about gut instincts. You can't say it was hinky, or I had a feeling, or it just didn't feel right. To me, it's the same thing. If and buts coconuts, I don't care how you describe it. When you do this for a living, you pick up things that most people don't pick up. You pick up body language, stance, ready for flight, target glances when they look at you. All these things are articulable facts, but young cops just go, man, I don't know, I just knew something was wrong. I knew it was about to go down, and then it happened. Well, you did know. You just didn't train yourself to recognize each and individual of the steps that caused you to think that.
Individual that went into Travis Michael's truck and stole a firearm. However, he said he had no evidence of that. He had no objective reasoning for that. I believe they were going into subjective.
I don't need to know. I was told there was thefts. The police were called. I called and said I was fearful. The guy was seen on video in a place trespassing, committing a crime. See, and the defense isn't getting out. This guy was committing a crime when he was at that house, correct? Well, he wasn't committing burglary because we don't know what his intent was. It doesn't matter. He was committing a crime. He was trespassing. It was private property. They need to make Arbery look like he was doing criminal acts. And they aren't painting that pure picture because nobody wants to attack the poor victim. We'll look bad. We'll look mean. Now's the time to do it.
Versus objective information. And but that his just gut instinct.
Okay, but subjectively, he believed.
Here comes that gut instinct.
That's what you're saying.
Yes, sir. That's what he said, not what I'm saying.
They get in the car, and I think you say that Greg McMichael sat in the front passenger seat, but there was a baby seat in there?
That's correct, yes, sir.
That he rode in that sort of capacity up to a certain point, is that right?
Yes, sir. According to his and Travis Michael's statement, he rode into that until this location on Burford, where Mr. Arbery turned and went back in the opposite direction.
So when they got in the car, what is it that you understood, that they could still see Mr. Arbery running in that direction, or that they just drove forward to see if they could find him? Did they still have eyes on him, I guess is my question.
I don't believe, no, I don't believe that question specifically asked of them, whether they still had eyes on him or not.
But they
That would have been a pretty good question, Detective. Don't you think that's important? Why wouldn't you ask if they saw him? How did they identify him? Did they re-identify him? How long was he out of sight? The defense attorneys say, well, if they didn't keep an eye on him, is it reasonable or is it possible that Arbery threw something that he was carrying in his pocket or that he stole and we never found it? If you didn't ask the question, my guess is you didn't search the area to see if there was stolen property in somebody's yard. And even if you did search, you may have not found it. So isn't it reasonable that when they lost sight of him, he could have got rid of a weapon and or stolen property or contraband? What do you think, officer?
drove down Burford.
Well, they drove down Satilla first and then on to Burford.
I think you were saying Buford earlier.
I'm sorry.
You mean Burford.
I meant Burford, yes, sir. I apologize if I misspoke on Buford.
And then, at some point, you learned that the McMichaels see Mr. Arbery running down Burford. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. According to both their statements, they catch up to him.
Okay. Now, I think you testified that you got a video from Mr. Bryan that comes from cameras on his home.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Have you reviewed that video?
I have, sir.
Okay. And do you see Mr. Arbery run past the house?
The video is apparently motion activated, so when it starts, you see, if I recall correctly, Travis McMichael's truck and Mr. Arbery running from the front of the truck towards the back of the truck, and then it looks like he's changing direction, and then the video stops.
Okay. So where is Mr. Bryan's house on that map?
I would hope that their defense team is reviewing this video extremely closely, and if they can find any bulges or anything that looks like Arbery is carrying something when they first see him and later it's no longer there, that would be huge to go toward their intent and their theft.
I think it's approximately right here.
Okay. And so when the camera initiates, it is when the McMichael's truck is in the view. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Is it stopped?
It appears to be at that point, yes, sir. It stopped, or it has comes into view, it is stopped. Mr. Arbery changes direction, and I believe he changes direction again, and then that's when the camera shuts off. And then it goes from the statement with Travis and Greg that they continue to pursue him this way.
All right. So when Travis's truck is stopped, which you understand, where is Mr. Arbery?
He is on the driver's side, I believe, running back towards the rear of the truck. And I don't recall if the truck begins to move backwards at that point, but then Mr. Arbery changes direction again, I believe, in the video. It's a very short snippet of the video.
So if the driver's side, if this is the driver's side truck and Travis is sitting here, and
Another thing that they haven't approached, and maybe one of the other defense attorneys would do it, is they didn't really cover why the police departments, the other departments, didn't charge him. Were they incompetent? And you may have to get in by saying, what was different between your investigation and the police department's investigation? Did the police find anything that you didn't find, or did you re-find it or confirm it? Or what did you find that the police department didn't find? And then when it comes down to pretty much nothing, they were the same, then what changed? Why didn't they charge, and why did you charge? Well, because my boss was called by the governor. Oh, no, you can't say, object, Your Honor, the governor is... Whatever.
Truck. Do you have any information that Travis is pointing a gun out the window?
Do I have information?
Yeah, do you have any information, or is it on video that Travis is holding a gun out the window?
I did not see any video of Travis holding the gun out the window of that video at that time.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Does the video have audio?
Get back to you.
Oh, yes. I'll do it. Does the video have audio?
I don't believe so, no, sir.
Okay.
Man, it's 2020. You guys can't get better microphones? My freaking Alexa can hear me and 3 rooms over and picks up everything and understands me when I tell her something. I mean, I don't get it.
Did you get any information from Travis or from Greg McMichaels that they were trying to speak to Mr. Arbery at that time without pointing any gun at him, but just talking to him?
Yeah, I believe they were ordering him to stop at that point. Then later Travis says his statement changes a little bit. At first it was we were telling him to stop, stop, and then it was we were saying, hey, we just want to talk with you. So
Are those two things inconsistent in your mind? Stop, stop, they want to talk to you. You seem to think that those are...
Yeah, he stepped on his pee-pee there. He's drawing conclusions because he's trying to paint the picture that, I don't believe that they really wanted to talk to him. Or he changed his statement, so it's not true. I think he was probably yelling something else. See, he's implying and misleading, and the defense attorney did a good job saying, wait a minute, how is that different? Stop, stop, we want to talk to you. You're acting like those are different. Why are they different? Now he's got to think about it. Let's see how he answers.
Inconsistent with one another.
I do,
Okay.
just from my interpretation of the interview. Yes, sir.
But at that moment, saying to Mr. Arbery, stop, we want to talk to you, there's nothing illegal about that.
Not at that point, no, sir. Not just saying that, no.
Right. And so,
Well, and I think another good point at this point would be perfect to say, when the prosecution used the term hunting and attacking, when they first contacted him, they didn't hunt and attack him. They actually asked him and wanted to talk to him. And isn't it true, officer, in police work, that when criminals run from police, we call that consciousness of guilt? And then the cop will probably try to get smart and go, well, flight alone is not enough to detain somebody. You're correct. Flight alone is not enough to detain somebody. However, flight combined with video of him leaving the area, trespassing, committing crimes, those are not just flight alone, are they, officer? I mean, they need to wear this guy out because they're not. Hopefully they will in front of the jury.
without a show of guns or force, you said that Mr. Arbery then begins to run what appears to be back the other direction?
Well, yes, sir.
Towards Satilla?
Well, it looks like to me he's running back for Satilla, and then like I said, I can't recall if the truck starts backing up, but then he changes direction again. From the video, it's very obvious to me at that point Mr. Arbery is trying to escape from Travis and Greg
Now,
McMichael.
you're getting into the mind of Mr. Arbery right now, aren't you?
Okay, so he just used the word escape. So what is the difference? Officer, when somebody runs from a bank and gets away from the cop, is he trying to escape? Yes, he is. Okay. If somebody shoots somebody and flees the scene, are they trying to escape? Yes, they are. And now you just said that Mr. Arbery was trying to escape, correct? Which would imply that they wanted to detain him and he was fleeing a crime. Would that be consistent? Objection, Your Honor! You know what? If the jury hears it, they'll connect the dots. He probably won't be able to answer, but I'd ask it.
No, sir. No, sir. I'm telling you what my interpretation of what I say on the video is.
And tell us what you're basing that interpretation on. What facts do you think support that he is at that moment trying to escape?
Because he looks like he's running away.
He's running away from the truck.
He's a jogger. This whole case is based on him running. Now all of a sudden, it looks like he's running away. Well, let me ask you this, officer. Does it look like he was running away from the house when they saw him running? Would that be reasonable? If you can conclude that he was trying to run away from them, why can't they conclude that he was trying to run away from the scene of a crime at the house? Your objection, Your Honor. We haven't determined there was a crime. Yes, there was. There was trespassing. He was running from the scene of a crime. These defense attorneys are not making that point clear.
And then I believe the truck starts to back up, and then he changes direction to get back away from
And
them.
he comes back toward the truck? Or-
As the truck was moving this way, I believe so, sir. Yes.
Okay. At this point in time, do you know where Mr. Bryan's truck is and whether it's come out of the driveway or not?
It has not. It is in video frame, parked in the driveway.
Okay, so as you're trying to interpret the running away aspects of what Mr. Arbery is doing, you're not saying that he ran this way, then stopped because he saw Mr. Bryan's truck and ran back.
No, sir.
You're just seeing him sort of change directions and hover around that area.
No, sir. My interpretation is that he's changing direction because the truck was going backward.
Okay.
He's trying to escape the truck,
So the truck's going backwards and he decides to run back in front of the truck
to get away from it. That is my interpretation of it.
and not back out Satilla Shores.
I think he's just trying to get out of the truck. Now, when they come down here, he turns and then tries to go back out Satilla Shores.
All right, so once Mr. Arbery runs away from that, what do you think happens next?
Well, it's based upon the statements of Travis and Greg McMichael,
Okay?
but that Ahmaud Arbery travels down Burford, with Travis and Greg McMichael in pursuit.
See, he's letting this cop keep saying he's trying to get away. He's trying to get away. Has a cop, because remember, one of the guys that's involved in this was an ex-cop. Has a cop, when somebody tries to run away, changes directions and everything, does that seem suspicious to you? Well, it depends. Well, if you were chasing somebody and you wanted to talk to him as a police officer, and they ran and they tried to go opposite directions of you, etc., would you interpret that as they had something to hide? Well, I don't know if I would interpret it as that. I would just want to talk to him, and I mean, he could make this cop free. They need to really start focusing on this cop's mind and what cops would do and make it the same thing, because everybody on a jury is going to see how cops act. You can't turn on TV, movie, the news, YouTube without seeing cops doing something stupid. So he needs to relate these guys' actions to cops and how it seems normal when cops do it. Why is it so abnormal when these guys do it just because they're not wearing a uniform?
They get here, again, Mr. Arbery changes direction and tries to go back towards Satilla.
Okay.
This is at this point, Greg McMichael exits the passenger side of the truck. He starts to go back down Buford, but Mr. Arbery is running back down Burford, I'm sorry.
Okay.
At this point, Mr. Bryan pulls his vehicle to try to block the road, to block Mr. Arbery in. This is his first attempt.
Let me stop you there if you don't mind, so I can follow you. As Mr. McMichael Travis has said that Mr. Arbery ran in front of his car and headed further down Burford, and they drove in his direction at that time.
They're pursuing him, yes, sir.
Did they?
Notice how he threw in that word, pursuing. When you're trying to make a case of stalking, you want to say things he was trying to escape. They were pursuing him. If a cop was doing it, yes, sir, he was pursuing a fleeing felon. Yes, sir, he believed that that person had just committed a crime and he was trying to catch him to take him into custody. See, if a cop did it, it would be explained a lot differently than this cop is explaining what these guys did, who one was a retired cop.
Tell you whether or not they continued to say to him, please stop, we want to talk to you.
Well, they didn't tell me. Well, they didn't give a statement to me.
Well, I'm sorry, I apologize, you're right. I'm sorry. They gave this statement to Glenn County, but I keep calling you Glenn County and you're not. I apologize.
Yes.
They gave this statement to Glenn County that they continued to try to engage him and ask him to stop and say, we just want to talk to you.
I don't recall them making that statement at this point in the
Don't
narration.
remember that.
That's right. I don't remember
Okay. Nonetheless, at some point, you don't have any information at this point that on that second encounter, which I'll call the second encounter on Burford, where they kind of drove up to him before Mr. Arbery changed directions back, that they pointed any guns at him at that time.
At this time?
When they followed Mr. Arbery further down Burford and they re-engaged and then he took off running back down towards Satilla, that they pulled out any guns at that time.
Neither one of those, neither Greg McMichael nor Travis McMichael confessed to that during the interview.
Neither one confessed to that. He didn't say it doesn't happen. He doesn't say we don't have any video that it happened. He doesn't say I have any proof that it happened. He says neither one confessed. See these little comments that imply guilt, that imply this officer doesn't believe him. He's an experienced officer and he's been doing this a long time and my job is to discredit them. So I'm going to say things that will lead people to believe that I know what I'm talking about. I don't like this type of deceptive testimony. I think it's bullshit. Get the freaking truth out. It is what it is. Stop pushing your political agenda to make your boss happy so your boss can make the governor happy so the governor can say, I stopped the riots.
They were confessed. I'm just saying, did they say that they took their guns out or not?
Well, that would be a confession. If they said they pointed a gun at him like you described earlier, that would be a crime, in my opinion, which would be a confession.
Okay, but you don't have information that they did pull guns out? No other videos or anything like that?
No, sir, I
Okay.
do not.
And I understand that Mr. Arbery is running back, which I'll call up Burford towards Satilla.
Why would it be a crime if they pointed a gun at him? He's fleeing a crime scene. He committed a crime of trespassing, probably burglary. We just can't prove the intent. He was there multiple times, and he's running with flight. Would cops point a gun at him at this point? If cops pointed a gun at him, would that be a crime? Of course not. So why is it a crime when the pesky citizen does?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at this point in time, you said that Mr. Bryan has pulled his truck straight out.
According to his statement and the traffic record, Michael, yes, he is trying to block the road to block in Mr.
So
Arbery.
you're saying there's a statement from Mr. Bryan where he says that he is in fact trying to block Mr. Arbery from leaving?
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct.
And that when he does that, what happens?
As far as with Mr. Arbery?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Arbery, my understanding, goes around the truck and in to get around the edge of it, at which point, from my understanding from Mr. Bryan, he then goes in pursuit and tries several other times to try to block in Mr. Arbery with his vehicle.
And you testified a little bit about finding some white cotton fibers along the edge of the truck, a dent in the truck, some palm slides across it. And I think you testified that Mr. Bryan said that he...
Oh shit, I'm at 36 minutes. Let me I guess we'll go to part, I think this is 6, so we'll go to part 7. Hang on, here we go.